So I want you to think back to a time when you were staring down the barrel of an impossible deadline.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. Maybe it was a massive crisis at work or, a final project in school. Just the situation where everything was on the line and the clock was ticking down to zero.
Yeah, and usually you'd expect to just feel pure panic in that moment.
Exactly. Pure panic. But did you ever have that moment where instead of completely freezing up, you suddenly felt this massive surge of energy?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
You just become hyper-focused. Like your mind stops wandering, all the distractions just melt away, and out of nowhere you're flooded with these brilliant ideas and solutions. It's like your brain just suddenly clicks into a higher gear.
Well, it is a profound shift in consciousness. But I mean, most of us just write it off as a lucky adrenaline rush, like a byproduct of stress.
Yeah, we just assume it's a temporary state.
Right, a glitch in our nervous system that we just can't control on demand.
So wait, you're saying this isn't a glitch? It might actually be a feature we can control?
It absolutely is a feature.
Okay, that is wild. Because our mission today for this deep dive is to decode that exact sensation of supreme focus. We're going to figure out how to take that fleeting late-night moment of brilliance and turn it into a permanent state of being.
Which is a huge goal, but definitely possible.
And to do that, we are pulling insights from the foundational text, the detailed table of contents, and the intro of Robert Greene's 2012 book, Mastery.
Yeah, and Greene drops this massive concept right from the start. He basically challenges our most fundamental assumptions about intelligence.
How so?
Well, from the time we're little kids, we are taught that high-level achievement is basically walled off from the rest of us.
Oh, totally. We look at history's greatest minds and just declare them geniuses. Yeah.
Exactly. We attribute their abilities to extreme privilege or inborn talent or just the right alignment of the stars. We treat their capabilities as if they possess some sort of magic that the rest of us simply lack.
Which is incredibly convenient, if you think about it.
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, if we label their abilities as magic, we let ourselves off the hook. We don't have to put in the actual work.
Oh, absolutely. And that mindset is universal. It's deeply historical, too. For centuries, humans have felt trapped by their limitations. We want to affect the world, we want that expanded consciousness, but
we want it without the friction.
Exactly, without the friction. If you connect this to the bigger picture, you can trace this all the way back to ancient alchemy.
Wait, like turning lead into gold?
Yes. People devoted their entire lives to finding the philosopher's stone, this mythical, elusive substance that would effortlessly transform raw matter into gold. They were desperate for a way to bypass the grueling work of actual creation.
Honestly, we really haven't changed much at all, have we?
Not even a little bit.
I mean, we might not be boiling lead in a medieval basement anymore.
Yeah.
But we are absolutely looking for the modern equivalent of the philosopher's stone.
Oh, for sure. We want the simple self-help formula, the quick fix.
Yeah, the whole change your attitude and attract wealth secret. We just want the result without the process.
Right. And while there might be, tiny grains of truth in some of those modern formulas, like the value of focus or positive thinking, they are all ultimately searching for something that Greene argues flat out does not exist.
An effortless path to practical power.
Exactly. The text refers to this as the El Dorado of the mind. We're constantly chasing this mythical city of gold that just distracts us from the actual path to high-level achievement.
That phrase, the El Dorado of the mind, it connects perfectly to a quote from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe that's in the text. It basically serves as the cornerstone for this whole philosophy.
Oh, I love that quote.
Yeah, so Goethe says, everyone holds his fortune in his own hands, like a sculptor. The raw material he will fashion into a figure. The skill to mold that material has to be learned and attentively cultivated.
And that is the core reality of mastery right there. We are all born with the raw capability. The marble is sitting right there in front of us.
Right. And to build on that analogy, it feels like most people today are just wandering around looking to buy a pre-made statue.
Yes, they want the shortcut, the life hack.
Exactly.
Right.
But true power, what Greene actually defines as mastery, is the willingness to pick up the heavy tools, stare at that intimidating block of raw marble, and actually learn how to chisel.
But doing so requires a fundamental shift in how we view intelligence. Because mastery isn't a mystical aura, it's a highly accessible, distinct form of intelligence.
So how do we tap into it?
Well, it occurs when we force ourselves to step outside our habitual, obsessive inner thoughts. Rather than our minds flitting around in a state of constant low-level anxiety and distraction, we actually focus.
We penetrate to the core of reality.
Exactly. That feeling you get during a late-night crisis. That's a brief flash of this exact intelligence where your mind turns outward and is suddenly flooded with light and details from the world around you.
Okay, so if that is the goal, then we really have to talk about the process. Like, how do we actually start chiseling?
Right. So the first major hurdle Greene identifies is a phase called submit to reality. It's the ideal apprenticeship.
Okay, submit to reality.
Yeah, this is the critical transition from formal classroom education to practical real-world application. Think about what happens when you decide to learn a complex instrument like the piano, or even step into a brand new high-stakes job.
You're totally lost. You're a complete outsider.
Exactly. The knowledge you need is quite literally over your head. When you look at a piano, your brain cannot comprehend how the keys, chords, and pedals all work together to create harmony.
Yeah, or in a new job, you're entirely ignorant of the hidden power dynamics, the unspoken rules, the psychology of your boss.
Right. You are blind to the reality of the environment.
I do have to push back a little on the phrasing here, though. Submit to reality, that sounds incredibly passive.
It does sound that way, yeah.
Right. Because in today's culture, aren't we constantly told to be disruptors? The prevailing advice is usually to walk into a room, assert yourself immediately, trust your gut, and break the outdated rules. Submission just sounds like giving up.
And that cultural obsession with disruption is a trap. In fact, Greene warns it's one of the greatest dangers in this initial apprenticeship phase.
Really? A trap.
Oh, absolutely. If you try to disrupt a system before you understand its machinery, you won't change the system. The system will crush you.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, the learning process halts because your ego gets in the way. You have to realize that giving into emotions, specifically boredom, impatience, fear, and the desire to just jump in and show off, is the fastest way to fail.
So you can't break the rules effectively until you've submitted to learning what those rules actually are.
Exactly. Submission in this context isn't about being weak.
It's about being strategic. It's putting your ego on ice so you can actually absorb information.
Precisely. And the apprenticeship is broken into 3 distinct steps to manage this. Step 1 is deep observation, which is the passive mode.
So just watching.
Right. You intentionally mute your colors, you observe the spoken and unspoken rules, you map the power relationships, you basically learn the environment before you ever act in it.
Okay, what's next?
Then comes step 2, skills acquisition. This is the practice mode, where you embrace the sheer tedium of repetition to gain what Greene calls tacit knowledge.
Tacit knowledge. Like knowledge that can't be explained in words, only felt.
Exactly. And only after you have endured those 2 steps do you earn the right to step 3, experimentation. This is the active mode where you slowly begin to assert yourself and test your boundaries.
You know, when you look at history, the text uses Charles Darwin as the perfect example of surviving this grueling process.
Oh, Darwin is a fantastic example. They call his journey the first transformation.
Yeah, because Darwin didn't just sail on the Beagle and instantly stumble onto the theory of evolution in a flash of disruptive genius.
No, not at all. He spent years in quiet, incredibly tedious observation.
Right, he was categorizing barnacles, studying finch beaks. He deeply absorbed the harsh reality of the natural world.
He gathered the raw material first. He submitted to the reality of nature long before he ever attempted to formulate a theory that would disrupt the entire world.
So it's a brutal, unglamorous process. But if you manage your emotions, if you survive the boredom and the intense intimidation of that apprenticeship phase, something remarkable starts to happen in your brain, right?
It does. You transition from just learning how other people do things to actually seeing the underlying connections yourself.
Which brings us to the next evolution. Because once you've survived the gauntlet of the apprenticeship, your mind starts to shift. The text calls this phase 2, awaken the dimensional line or the creative active.
Right. At this point, you have internalized the fundamental rules of your field. You are no longer an outsider. You're a practitioner.
Okay, so you've made it.
But instead of just feeling complacent and settling into a comfortable routine, your mind becomes restless. It wants to become active.
Oh, I see.
You start seeking to use this deeply ingrained knowledge in ways that suit your own specific, unique inclinations.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is actually a fascinating avatar for this second transformation.
He really is.
What stands out to me is this idea of expanding your knowledge to related fields, to give your mind fresh fuel. Like, you aren't just staying in your narrow lane anymore. You are forcing associations between entirely different ideas.
And that is the very definition of the dimensional mind. See, the human brain naturally wants to conserve energy by thinking in predictable, linear patterns.
Right, it's lazy.
Exactly. But the dimensional mind fights that. You take the rigid rules you so patiently observed during your apprenticeship, and you begin to play with them.
You're actively turning against the very conventions you learned.
Yes, reshaping them to fit your own creative spirit. You start seeing how architecture relates to music, or how biology relates to software design.
I can totally see how playing with the rules makes you creative. You start bending the boundaries. But, and maybe this is just me, just being a rebel or making unique associations doesn't automatically make you a master.
No, it doesn't.
Right, there has to be a tipping point where you go from just being highly competent and creative to achieving that historical, almost terrifying level of brilliance. What does ultimate mastery actually look like?
Well, the pinnacle of this process, phase 3, is achieved when the tool you are using is no longer something separate from you.
Okay, meaning what?
Whether that tool is a piano, keyboard, a surgical scalpel, or even the complex social dynamics of a boardroom, it becomes completely internalized. It literally physically fuses with your nervous system. Greene refers to this ultimate state as having a fingertip feel for your craft.
A fingertip feel. You know, to use a really universal analogy, it sounds exactly like learning how to drive a car.
Oh, that's a perfect comparison.
Like, remember the very first time you got behind the wheel?
Oh, sure. Pure anxiety.
Exactly. You are utterly paralyzed. You're trying to consciously coordinate the pressure on the brake pedal, the steering wheel angle, checking the rearview mirror, checking your blind spot. It's exhausting.
Your brain is manually processing every single variable and rule of the road. That manual processing is the cognitive load of the apprenticeship phase, the sheer intimidation of the machinery.
But fast forward a decade. You can drive home from work, navigating traffic in the rain, having a deep conversation with a passenger, listening to music.
And you don't even remember the drive.
Exactly. When you pull into your driveway, you don't even consciously remember making the turns. The car has literally become an extension of your body. Your brain doesn't see pedals and mirrors anymore. It just sees the road.
You have a fingertip feel for the vehicle.
Right.
And that driving analogy perfectly illustrates the specific definition of intuition at the mastery level.
Because when people hear the word intuition, they usually think of like a psychic premonition.
Or an unexplainable gut feeling, yeah. They romanticize it. But true, masterly intuition is not magic. It is a sudden and immediate seizing of reality, without the need for words or formulas, because the brain has done the math subconsciously.
It's a knowing that bypasses conscious thought.
Yes, but it is a knowing built on thousands and thousands of hours of deep immersion. You have engaged with so much complexity and gained such a massive tolerance for chaos that you can see the whole picture with complete clarity.
So brilliant ideas just seem to come to you out of nowhere, but they're actually the result of your brain instantly accessing millions of stored memory traces and interconnected patterns.
Exactly.
I mean, this philosophical concept is amazing, but what really grounds it is the hard science behind it.
Yeah.
Because Greene dives into the evolutionary biology of why our brains are wired to do this.
He does, and it's a crucial piece of the puzzle that demystifies the whole concept.
He explains that we literally possess the biological hardware for mastery.
Right. If we look at the broader animal kingdom, animals rely primarily on instinct. And instinct is fantastic because it's incredibly fast and highly effective for survival.
But the problem is, instinct is inflexible.
Exactly. It's limited to immediate life or death dangers. So humans evolved a different primary tool, which is rationality. Rationality allows us to be thorough, to plan for the future, and to understand incredibly complex environments.
But the downside of human rationality is that it's slow. And worse, our obsessive internal thought processes can actually disconnect us from the real world.
Right, we get stuck in our own heads, we worry about the past or the future, all while missing the reality right in front of us.
So how does mastery fix that?
Greene argues that mastery is the ultimate evolutionary fusion of these two survival mechanisms.
It's the speed and spontaneity of animal instinct combined with the depth and thoroughness of human rationality.
Exactly. It is the conscious and the unconscious working in perfect harmony. And we possess the physical hardware for this, primarily because of our distant primate ancestors.
Okay, let's unpack that evolutionary link because it is wild. How does the survival of a primate swinging from trees millions of years ago translate to me dominating a complex coding problem or a boardroom presentation today?
Well, think about the intensely unforgiving environment of a treetop primate millions of years ago. To move quickly and survive in a complex, vertical, three-dimensional space, they had to evolve an incredibly sophisticated visual system.
And supreme eye muscle coordination.
Right, because in that environment, misjudging a distance or failing to grasp a branch meant a fatal fall. So their eyes evolved to face forward, giving them binocular vision and deep focus.
Wow.
They developed the neurological ability to entirely detach their attention from the chaotic background noise of the jungle and laser in on a single specific target.
So this ability to deeply observe, to hyper-focus on a single problem until the rest of the world melts away, to gain a fingertip feel for a complex environment, we aren't just making this up.
Not at all.
We literally have 6 million years of brain development designed explicitly for this exact function. We are biologically hardware engineered to become masters.
And the human brain is uniquely plastic. It is explicitly designed to rewire itself as we practice and acquire skills. It takes those slow, clunky, rational processes and physically hardwires them into fast, intuitive responses.
So if we have the hardware, the next question is how we deploy it. And Greene provides a roadmap of how historical figures actually applied this 6 million year old hardware in reality.
He breaks it down into very specific, actionable strategies.
Right, like for example, before you even begin an apprenticeship, you have to find a domain that will sustain you through the boredom. He calls this discover your calling or the life's task.
This is all about finding your primal inclination.
Because the apprenticeship is going to be painful and tedious.
Oh, incredibly painful. And if you choose a field based purely on money or social prestige, you will not have the internal fuel to survive the deep observation phase. You'll just quit.
Leonardo da Vinci uses the prime example here.
He is. Masters are often guided by a sense of destiny, like a hidden force that draws them to a specific subject. Da Vinci didn't just arbitrarily decide to study anatomy and engineering.
Right, he had a primal, almost obsessive inclination toward understanding how things fit together.
It's about looking inward first. You have to figure out what naturally commands your hyperfocus before you turn outward to face the world.
And once you do turn outward, you inevitably collide with the social environment, which is where many potential masters fail.
Oh, so many. They master their craft, but they are destroyed by workplace politics.
Exactly. This is why social intelligence is highlighted as a mandatory strategy in the text, featuring Benjamin Franklin as the ultimate practitioner.
This part is fascinating because it frames human emotion as a cognitive drain.
Yeah, the text explicitly mentions the necessity of avoiding the 7 deadly realities. Human flaws like envy, conformism, rigidity, self-obsessiveness.
And you have to understand why these realities are deadly to mastery. Because if you are constantly consumed by workplace drama, if you are agonizing over why a coworker got promoted or trying to navigate petty jealousies,
You are burning immense amounts of cognitive bandwidth.
exactly. That is bandwidth that should be directed toward developing your dimensional mind. Social intelligence isn't about being overly friendly or manipulating people. It's about supreme objectivity.
It's learning to observe people as facts of nature.
Right, much like Darwin observed finches, so that you aren't emotionally drained by their unpredictable behavior. Franklin mastered this perfectly. He navigated incredibly toxic political environments without letting them corrupt his internal focus.
So that objectivity preserves your energy. And speaking of energy, another massive strategy to accelerate this process is the mentor dynamic.
Yes, with Michael Faraday as the prime example.
Right, because life is simply too short to learn everything from scratch through trial and error. You have to find a way to absorb the power of those who have already built the neural pathways.
The outline refers to this beautifully as the alchemy of knowledge.
I love that phrase.
You don't just read a master's books or listen to their lectures. You find a mentor who aligns with your life's task, and you submit to them.
You show humility.
Yes, you gaze deep into their mirror, as Greene puts it, and you physically rewire your brain faster by observing their tacit knowledge. The subtle ways they hold their tools, the way they approach a problem before they even speak.
You literally mirror their neural pathways. But the ultimate goal isn't to remain a subservient clone forever, right?
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
The goal is to internalize their knowledge, transfigure their ideas, and eventually surpass them. You use their 6 million years of hardware to upgrade your own, and then you step out on your own.
I mean, every single one of these strategies, finding a primal life's task to fuel your endurance, using social intelligence to protect your cognitive bandwidth, and leveraging the mentor dynamic to bypass years of trial and error, they're all deeply practical mechanisms.
They are. They are designed to guide your ancient evolutionary hardware safely through the brutal apprenticeship and into the creative freedom of the dimensional mind.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this deep dive right now?
It means that the imaginary wall society has built around genius is completely fake.
Completely. Whether you are prepping for a massive boardroom presentation, learning a complex new coding language, writing a novel, or trying to master a new instrument, the blueprint for greatness is exactly the same.
And the hardware is already inside your skull. You don't need a magic shortcut. And you definitely don't need a philosopher's stone.
You simply need to trust the biological process. You must push through the intimidating, often boring realities of the apprenticeship.
You must protect your focus, allowing yourself the time and cognitive space to expand into the dimensional mind.
And if you do the tedious work of making new associations, your evolutionary hardware will eventually take over. It'll grant you that intuitive, effortless fingertip feel where the work just flows through you.
It really will.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I do want to leave you with one final lingering thought.
Okay, what is it?
Well, as we were looking through the incredibly detailed structure of Greene's philosophy, a very specific, almost hidden pattern jumped out at me.
Oh, the reversals.
Yes. Almost every single major phase of mastery, from finding your life's task to the apprenticeship to the mentor dynamic, ends with a section titled Reversal.
It is a striking structural choice for sure, and it carries profound implications.
And what's even more fascinating is who is featured in these reversal sections. These aren't failures. They are some of the most brilliant, paradigm-shifting minds in human history.
Right. Thomas Edison is listed under a reversal.
Temple Grandin,
Yeah.
John Coltrane, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Albert Einstein. So here's the question you really have to ask yourself. If the path to mastery relies on following this exact, grueling evolutionary sequence of passively observing rules and internalizing reality.
What does a reversal of this entire process actually look like?
Exactly. It implies that perhaps the ultimate level of mastery isn't just following the rules flawlessly or even bending them creatively.
Right.
Could it be that breaking the very blueprint of mastery itself is the final hidden step to unlocking ultimate genius? Once you have patiently mastered the rules of your reality, how will you choose to reverse them?
That is a fascinating thought.
It's definitely something to ponder the next time you find yourself staring down a 2 a.m. deadline, feeling that sudden, unexplainable surge of supreme focus. You aren't borrowing magic, you are just waking up your hardware. So pick up your tools, get to chiseling,